So our first questions from our audience was how your work on cancer treatment can be applied in other laboratories.
Yeah. Well, so here's what we ourselves have published so far. We've shown that in model systems that cancer can be detected ahead of time by observing the voltage signature of cells that are disconnecting from the collective and reducing their cognitive light cone. We've shown that we can induce cancer phenotypes without any DNA damage or anything like that by artificially interfering with the electrical connections between cells. And we've shown that, better yet, we've shown that actually even after there's an oncogene-induced carcinogenesis process, we can normalize the cells and make them participate in normal morphogenesis without killing them, without fixing the genetic defects, simply by managing the bioelectrical state. So that's what we've done. We have collaborators that are taking this work into other areas. For example, we ourselves are working in colon cancer and glioblastoma in mammalian, so human organoids, mice. So we're in mammals now. We have collaborators like Madeleine Oudin's lab is taking it into breast cancer. Mm-hmm. We have other collaborators that are taking it in other areas. I mean, anybody can do this because we publish everything. So people can add voltage monitoring protocols to their diagnostics, as we are doing, because all of our protocols are published. Mm-hmm. They can investigate malfunction of ion channels, either at the gene expression level, at the proteomic level, or at the physiological level in whatever model system they're studying, or in human samples or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, anybody can do this stuff.
Great. So it is like open source.
Everything we publish everything. We preprint everything, so it's available for free, and then eventually there's a real peer-reviewed paper, but everything is published.
I love your approach, because in our AGi Alliance, we are also sharing economy. We are sharing all the knowledge for free, because we want to incentivize people to do the same, to share information. Yeah. So our second information is how your theory of collective intelligence and cognitive light cone can be embodied in some technical apparatus.
Yeah, well, this is something that both we and a company called Softmax is doing. So this is Emmett Shear and Adam Goldstein and so on. So they are using some of these principles in the AI approaches that they're taking. I mean, basically, what my work has indicated is that there are several specific, and probably there are more that we will find, but for now I can think of several mechanisms that operate as what I call cognitive glue. So what that means is that these are policies that take competent active subunits. So in the biological case, that's first molecular networks, and then cells, and then tissues and organs. So it takes these subunits and it aligns them towards a larger scale goal in another space. That means that you have to connect those subunits in some way so that the collective has an effective ability to pursue some goal in another space. So, for example, in biology, individual cells pursue very tiny goals in metabolic space, in gene expression space, in physiological state space. But the collective can pursue gigantic goals like make a limb, or make an eye, or make a heart. No individual cell knows what any of those things are, but the collective absolutely knows. And so the goal is, how do you align all the individual subunits such that they will together, the collective has a bigger goal. So we have some ideas about how that happens in biology. We see it and we manipulate it. In fact, that's part of our cancer program is having to do with memory anonymization, meaning sharing memories among subunits, meaning stress propagation, such that there are specific large-scale stresses that make some part of the system care about what happens in another part of the system, and you can do that with stress propagation. So all of these things can well be implemented. The key to all of this, though, is that unlike the vast majority of technology that's built today, it is not a single level intelligence. That is, we don't, I assume you've never had a problem of robot cancer, right? Our computers and our robots normally don't get cancer because the way we make them is stupid parts put together in a way that hopefully the collective is intelligent. Biology isn't like that. It has agendas and problem solving competencies, intelligence at every level. So, of course, you can have defections such as cancer and various other things because every level has the ability to pursue goals. And if you don't align all your components, they will go off and do something different. So if we want to give technologies the ability to scale their cognitive light cone, you have to do the same thing. You have to build composite systems out of already agential subcomponents. And then, of course, the downside is then you will have new failure modes like cancer. But the upside is that, like in biology, you will be able to have systems that scale their cognitive light cone.
Is it possible to build on some non-biological substrate?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, none of the things that I've been writing about in these papers rely on a specific biological substrate. I mean, as part of our biology work, we know what the substrate is that evolution has chosen. So like we see the substrate, but there's nothing magical about the substrate, I don't think. There are people who disagree. There are people who think that there are biological components that have special quantum mechanical properties or something else. Maybe I'm not against that, but the things that we talk about, absolutely, you can implement it in other technologies.
Mm-hmm. So this leads us to my final question, which is related to collective intelligence and cognitive light cone on a larger scale. I mean, on universe scale. I mean, is the global universe like scale intelligence, which after that manifests itself in our consciousness? And is it synchronicity a manifestation of this universe mind, let's call it?
Yeah. Well, what I have asked the question. We know how to look downwards. In other words, we know how to take a system such as ourselves and ask whether the smaller components have different types of intelligence, agency, and so on. We have experimental approaches to do that. Going upwards is much harder. You can use the same techniques, but it becomes increasingly more expensive and impractical to do so. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, I think this is an empirical question. I don't think it's a philosophical question or a religious question. I think it's an empirical question. If we want to know whether we are part of some larger intelligence, mm-hmm. we have to develop tools for doing that. And in order to know whether some system, whatever it's made of, is a particular kind of intelligence, you have to do experiments. That's the only way I think we're going to know. In the context of doing science, I mean, there are other things that you might want to do, but in the context of science, that's the only way we're going to know. So that's very difficult with systems that are larger than ourselves. I suspect that probably there's some sort of Gödel-like proof that you can't ever know for sure. That you can't know for sure whether you're part of a bigger system. But I also think that probably you can get evidence for it. And as you mentioned, what I've suggested is that what would that evidence look like? What would it look like that you're part of a larger system? I think it would look like what Jung and Pauli talked about as synchronicity. Mm-hmm. So, imagine, for example, that experiment that I talk about where they took the tail of an amphibian and grafted it to the flank. The tail turns into a limb. The cells at the tip of the tail become fingers. If you look at it from the perspective of those cells, something very weird is going on. Locally, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong here. There's no damage. There's no injury. Nothing is wrong. So what they can't do is draw a very clear mechanistic picture of why they're turning into fingers, because there isn't any reason locally for them to turn into fingers. Also, there's genes turning up and down. The cells are moving around. Look, what is going on? They don't know what a finger is. But they might be able to gain evidence of the fact that these are not random changes. There's something going on that's coherent in some way. And only we who can step back and see the whole process or in fact, this, the limb itself can measure these things and say, of course it's coherent. You're making a limb, but the parts don't know that. All they know is that they're being pushed to do specific things, and maybe they can get some evidence that there's some kind of grand design to this. There's some kind of pattern or order to what's going on. But if you zoom into the particulars, you will not see a physics story about that. About why it's happening. So I suspect for us as well, synchronicity is a name we've given to phenomena like that are when there's a meaningful pattern, but there isn't a causal physics story to be told about it. There are events that are obviously, or maybe not so obviously, connected by some sort of meaningful explanation, but not at the level of the mechanics of the mechanisms of why these two seemingly disparate things were doing something that's coherent. So that's that's the extent of what I can say from a scientific perspective. Does it seem plausible to me that there is a larger scale or the full scale some sort of consciousness pervading the universe? I must admit, to me that seems very plausible. That seems reasonable, but this is just me speculating. I have nothing scientific to say about that, other than we can do it. We should be doing experiments, and while I don't think we can do experiments on on the scale of the universe, we can certainly do experiments on larger systems and try to hone our skills for knowing when it is that there is a larger system that's bending your option space, and that might be for us humans. I would caution that long before we worry about what the universe is doing, we ought to be applying that same kind of analysis to our financial structures, our social institutions, our the different stories that we tell ourselves as a society. All of these things have the potential to be larger scale systems, not necessarily smarter than us. There's no guarantee that the larger system is smarter than the subunits, by the way. Not necessarily smarter, but nevertheless, maybe having the capacity to deform our option space in ways that we don't understand. So even, long before we worry about what's up with the universe and the solar system and all of these things, we know we are on a daily basis creating larger scale structures that we have very little ability to predict how much intelligence they're going to have, what their goals are going to be, what kind of intelligence it is. We have very few tools for that at this moment, and I would worry a lot more about that.
Very interesting. Your theories, your experiments, your practical work is essential for building AGI. So I will be happy if you will accept our invitation to supervisory board of AGI Prize, because we need somebody to appreciate the participants of our AGI Prize.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot. My biggest problem is that I am what they call 100% committed at the university in terms of percent effort. I'm not able to at this point to take on any kind of new invitations, but we can certainly keep in touch. And also, you might want to talk to Alex and Emmett and Adam about some of this stuff, because there may be good collaborations that are possible. And I mean, they're pretty. They have the benefit of a lot of our work. So I think there are opportunities to collaborate for sure.
Okay, thank you. I will invite Emmett and Adam by your recommendation. Thank you for your answers. It's very enlightening, and I wish you health and support of all community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, and please send me a link when this goes up. Send me a link to it.
Sure, definitely.
All right.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thanks a lot. Bye. Be well.
Thank you.